Hey everybody, it's Marty the JavaScript Party. I'm a buddy Rhett, and we are trying to get the unit tests all squared away for a change that we made. So basically, I basically undid. I was using the Angular Material Matte menu, and I found that like there's just no way to use it without creating something called and that I was very new to. I was new was detached elements. So you can create these detached elements, and what I guess what happens is, and I'm not sure about this, but I guess what happens is you create like HTML DOM elements that the browser knows about, and you use JavaScript to create them, and then the browser only has a reference to it. So it stays around, but it's not visible on the screen. So it just starts consuming memory. And so I don't want that. That's something I don't want, and I really don't want it a lot. Most of my other projects I couldn't care less. Honestly, like I put a lot of thought into it, and honestly I don't care. But in this specific project I do, and that's because I think that this is going to be a very memory intensive project. If I ever get it to work the way I want it to work, it's this will break my my application. Um, I think my other applications they can work exactly the way I want them to work, and this having detached elements isn't going to be a problem. But this, I think, I need to be very aggressive at deleting any sort of memory consumption. But one of the things that we did was we decided, I decided that I want to have 100% test coverage on my unit tests, and we do not currently. We have this one function that is not tested. Um, so what we are going to do now, and I guess we means me, um, is I'm going to write a unit test that tests this function. Now I believe if I write a unit test that literally just executes this and just and verifies that it got a true back, um, I don't think this will give me 100% coverage because I don't think this will. I don't believe that this will. I think everything from here over will stay red. So we'll have to add a little bit more code. Um, I think we'll just need to mock out native element and give it a function called focus. I probably won't do that myself because it's just pointless. I'll probably just ask ChatGPT to update my code for me, or to give me that code. So, anyways, I'm gonna close everything else just because it's a little bit of a unneeded cognitive load. No, cognitive load I do not need right now. I'm just gonna say close others, and then what happens is I think I can go here and come back, and it'll sort of highlight exactly where I'm at, and then go there. And so basically, it should set focus on the menu. So it is a way that you create. Man, it's crazy that I've already forgotten what that is. Expected. It's okay. So it's a function, and it's a spec. It defines a single specification. They call it a spec, at SPEC for short. And a specification is like a rule. I mean, yeah, like a requirement to you typically. Um, so it defines a single requirement, and it takes up to four. It looks like it takes up to four arguments. And I think the only argument that is no, three arguments. It looks like um, an expectation, which is just a string that describes what you expect it to do. An assertion, which is a function um, that I guess you can give it a callback. It's a function that either returns one of two things, either undefined or an implementation callback. I don't really know what an implementation callback is. And then a timeout, which is a number that tells how long. So what do we expect this to do? I guess we expect it to I think you usually typically start like with should. I think that's only because when you generate these automatically get generated. Now, should you create unit tests? I don't know. I really don't know if that's a good idea or not. And the biggest reason, I would definitely be strongly in favor of creating unit tests if it wasn't for the fact that Angular, as the Google organization and the Angular team individually, what that they have deprecated um, this specific way of unit testing. And what's worse is that they haven't even given like a suggestion. They just sort of glibly say, ha ha ha, try a bunch of out and tell us what you like best. And it's just like, are you kidding me? Um, because it's like, yeah, you go ahead, you guys, you developers, go out and spend hundreds of hours developing different unit tests, and then we'll just decide to which one we like. It's just like, yeah, right, whatever. But since I already have them, I might as well just continue it, and it's been a fairly good experience for me. I've definitely grown as a developer from doing the unit tests. So, um, but should you do it? I don't know. I don't know if it's worth it. I don't know if it's worth the amount of effort when you consider that it's that the Angular team isn't really they've deprecated doing it. So I think deprecated is a bit of a synonym for advising against. They've advised against doing this, and so if you haven't already spent the time, invested the time to learn it, is it really worth investing the time to learn it? Probably not. But since I've already invested the time, it's probably worth it for me to use it. So should set the menu focus. And then, so I guess that's the only required thing. So if you hit save at this point, it will actually give you like a little warning that says, hey, we've got a test that doesn't have any. I thought it would give you a test, any assertions, but maybe not. I guess because we didn't actually give it a function, we didn't get any kind of a warning or anything like that. So now what we can also do is now we can hit a comma, and then we'll give it a function. And I guess we have two choices. We could return a Jasmine implementation callback, or we could return nothing, undefined. So we are going to go with the returning nothing. And basically, I'm just going to call. This is what I like to do. I like to just call it. Now this is a component. So when this is generated, it automatically generates a unit test for you when you if you use the CLI to generate your component. So, and then by default, they name the component in the application component. It's just, you can name it whatever you want, but they name it component. So I'm just going to stick with that. Again, I don't think there's any real benefit to adding the cognitive load that would invariably hit anybody coming after you if you, for some reason, decided to change it to something other than component. Now, if you may have a reason that you'd want to name it something other than component, like maybe you have different sections of the code, and in some sections of the code you want to name it like, core component versus something else component or something like that, just so that adding that cognitive load gives you a big enough payback to make it worth your while. But theoretically, I should be able to hit save at this point, wait for this thing to build out, and then most of this should turn green. I don't think it'll all turn green, and I don't know. I don't think it actually even ran it. And that's one of the big hangups is sometimes it runs it, sometimes it doesn't. And I don't know a rhyme or reason on why it decides to run it sometimes and not. Okay, so we actually ended up getting 100% coverage. I don't know why. I don't know why this half got covered, but we have 100% coverage. I think we will have a warning at this point. Yeah. So it's strange that we didn't get that warning before, but it says, hey, this doesn't have any expectation. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take a cheap, easy solution, and is focused I guess I should do this. Ran successfully. Because that's all we're saying is, hey, this ran. We're not saying anything else. And then we're going to add our expectation. And we want it to equal, and it should equal true. Because we just return a true. So if it worked at all, we're going to get a true back. And now I believe we have 100% coverage. And we are done with unit testing. And I think we have successfully removed Angular material map menu from this. Now, as I was going through this detached nodes experience, I was like fairly emotionally like all over the place, right? There was some points if you go back and watch the videos that I was just like, I can never use map material again ever in my whole life, period. And then like, it doesn't even matter. What do I care? Blah 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 blah. And I think I finally settled on, whatever. If you have an application that may or have to run for days on end, which is not unusual, that does happen. Or if you have an application where you're going to be pulling in tons of things into memory, you probably should avoid at least mat menu, or really anything that kind of pops up and takes over the screen and adds like a layer behind it so that you can't get to the stuff behind it. You probably should avoid that because, like I can imagine, like, I don't know if you ever watch any movies, but like if there's sometimes you'll see these movies where you show military people and they have like this big thing they're looking at, some visualization. It might be little guys running around and stuff like that. And then they might be hitting buttons and like, okay, let's see it through infrared. Okay, let's see it through this. Let's see it through that. I can only imagine that, and some of those things probably go for days on end, right? So I can only imagine that if you used Angular map material in that situation, you say, okay, now show me the infrared, and the whole thing just crashes, like at the most critical moment, right? Like there's just like there are some like literally only 1 in 1,000 applications does it even matter, but this happens to be one where I believe it will matter in the long run, and I don't want to spend 5 years working on this thing only to be like, okay, I have to restart because I have this memory leak that I just cannot get around. And it's one thing to end up having to restart after 5 years, but it's another thing to know that you had the problem and then go forward anyways and then have to start all over again after 5 years. Like that, I can't just ignore this. I wish I could. I wish I could just ignore it and just move forward and just start working on cool visualizations. But yeah. So let's reload. Just one last, before we do like sort of the very last commit, just make sure that we actually accomplish the vision, the desire. So let's go inspect, or F12. Click F12, go to memory, and then take a snapshot. Thank God. And then open this, close it, and take a snapshot. Okay, so we do not have any detached elements. I think if we do this, add viz, and close. Oh, see, I'm in the habit of being able to click that and close it. Click that and close it. And if I'm being honest, I would rather be in the habit of clicking the actual icon to close it, not in the habit of clicking off of the icon. Okay, so we still don't have any detached, but I believe if I do this, and then take snapshot. Yep, see now I have some detached nodes. So I'm gonna have to try to figure that out, like what I want to do to zoom a zoom 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 into boom boom. See, I actually have 4 detached nodes right now, and yeah, I have like an app viz, and so I think this is pretty expensive. I don't think we want that, and I think if I do this again, I'll end up with a lot more detached nodes. So yeah, I have 24 nodes. So yeah, we were just like grinding through. So like if somebody went into like some sort of creative flow where they're just like building stuff and they're just like in the flow and they've been going for 23 hours straight, blah 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 blah, which I've had experiences like that where especially when I was younger, sometimes I would go for days on end coding, just fall asleep at my seat and then wake up and just start coding immediately where I left off, sleep for 2 hours and all that. Like it was just sort of, you know, a phase of my life that I used to do that stuff. And if this would crash, there's no way I would have tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of these things as I was popping back and forth looking at things. I don't want that. I don't want that to crash. So so yeah, that's going to be the next thing to try to figure out is how the heck to get rid of these. And I think the answer is going to be to, instead of deleting these layouts, I think I'm going to have to hide the layouts. And I don't know if that is even possible with the routing, the way the routing is set up. So I may have to change my whole routing scheme in order to be able to do that, because I think when the router changes things, it's going to automatically delete these things and it's just going to leave them in a detached node sort of situation. Um, these are kind of things that will probably, I bet you, in Angular 30 they'll fix these sorts of things. Um, but it'll probably make an actual upgrade. See, the upgrades are kind of like, sometimes they're kind of fake. Like they say you upgraded, but then they have little flags that turn off the main benefits of the upgrade. And the reason they have the flags that turn those off is because you can't really upgrade those. Um, so anyways, so that is that. Nice short video. What are we at? 17 minutes. Not bad. Yeah. Oh wait, no. Faked you. Faked you. All right. So let's go ahead and so we do our commit. So all we had to do is remove one call in here. Basically, it used to be that if you clicked in the body at all, you would lose the drop down. Now it stays up, so there was no reason to relaunch the menu. And this was actually closing the menu. So I got rid of that. I do think this works a lot better than it used to work. Let's see. Basically, this is all the stuff where I got rid of the Angular material stuff. I didn't get rid of Angular material, right? Because I still are using the icons. At the very least, Angular material is awesome for its icons. Then we ended up having to create our own styles and focusing styles and stuff like that because, Angular material was taking care of all that for us before. And then this. And one of the major benefits to moving off of Angular material for this, if I was in a corporate environment, would be like, yes, it wouldn't look as good at first, but as the project managers and all of them came up with their crazy things that they decided to come up with, which is not unusual, as they came up with them, implementing them won't be as dangerous, right? It's very dangerous to Angular material is by definition its greatest strength is also its greatest vulnerability, right? Its greatest strength is that it's highly opinionated, so you don't like it just works. It just works, and it works in a way that's been very, very studied and is arguably correct. Period. But that's its greatest vulnerability. If you say, oh, you know what, I would like a little bit of more space here, or I want a little bit of that there, you are very likely to break all kinds of other things and make it almost impossible to do upgrades in the future. So I've worked on plenty of projects that were absolutely stuck. Like a lot of projects are stuck at Angular 14 and cannot move forward because of Angular material, because they made massive changes to the way Angular material works in Angular 15, material 15. So like they changed the way the styles and all kinds of stuff. So, that is no longer a risk for this project in this here. So anyways, git add, let's see, dot, and I don't know why. I just said git add. I need to add the git in front. I had the craziest git issue. So I was working with my boss, and my boss had, we were like, oh man, we really should change the case. So let's say I had a capital M for menu, and we're like, oh, we need to fix that. So he was working on his computer, and he changed it. He refactored it so that it was a smaller case. And then when I pulled Git down, or when I pulled his changes down, Windows doesn't seem to care about that. So on Windows, it never changed the case of it, and so every time I was trying to commit, or add, it would be stage for a second, come right back, stage for a second, come right back. And what it was that what I think all I would have needed to do is right click and change the name. But what I ended up doing was copying all the code out into a text pad, deleting everything, committing that with the file deleted, then adding the file back with the right case, and then committing, and that worked. But I do think all I would have had to do is change the case. But anyway, so now we have everything staged. Git commit -m. And I think all we do is remove Angular material mat menu. So, and then git push it real good. All right. So now now the next thing, and who knows how hard this is going to be. This would probably be another big problem, is to make it to where our we don't get these detached nodes. And again, that's the kind of thing I've been saying. It's so much easier to do it now, but I think one thing we're going to have to lose, and I don't know how hard or easy it's going to be to undo this, is this guy right here. I'm going to have to change that, get rid of this Angular outlet, and then add my own code that where I like to say, if the route is this custom, then show the custom. Otherwise, show the whatever the other one is. I think it's tabular, and then I think there's a third one too. There's the edit, right? So like, see, we have 3 routes, and so those, and then whenever it sees that its route, and I guess this top thing is going to have to like put a signal out that the route has changed, and then the different templates. I believe I have these layouts. Yeah, these 3 templates will have to listen for that change, and if it sees that it's no longer the kind, then it's going to have to delete all of its things, and we'll have to see if when these get deleted, like maybe if we send in the renders where there's no renders, like if we set the renders to empty, maybe it'll delete it without creating those ID detached. But if it doesn't, then we may have to figure out some other way to delete these so that there's no app viz. And what's really, really hard about this is it's going to be probably almost impossible to get ChatGPT to help us with this, because like it just doesn't want to acknowledge the problem. Whatever the large language model that it's dealing with, whatever that is, there's a ton of information in it that says that this is not happening. And so since like the the system, the mainstream, whatever the established truth, whatever, since the established truth is that this isn't happening, it's going to be hard to get help with this. But I don't want this. And whether the all the truth out there is saying that this doesn't happen or not, I don't want it to happen. So I'm probably gonna have to figure that out all by myself without ChatGPT, which is probably a good thing. But I would love to. Like, one thing is, like, see, I have so if you go to ESPN football and you go to, this is, to me, it was very fascinating. It really exposed sort of a truth in what's going on. So let's see. So like, you come in here and you go to like one of your, see, I'm in 3 fantasy football, so this, and then I'm in another one called Sleeper, and Sleeper is literally 100 times better. Um, so, um, and if you go to players and you go to add a player, right, and you select defense, what you can see is like what the last, how much this defense, how many points it made last time. So the last time this defense played, it made 9, right? And really, they're probably not going to make many because Philadelphia is a much better offense than whoever they played last time. But so the valuable thing to know is that last time they played Tennessee, and the time before that they played Houston. So it looks like Houston and Tennessee have offenses that defenses score a lot against. So what I want to know is which of these, all of these teams have given up the most points. That's the piece I want to know. Not, I don't, because defenses is, I like to pick a new defense every week, and I like to pick the one for 2 weeks from now. Like, that's one of my strategies for doing well, is I find a team that's likely to give up a lot of points to defense, but generally those guys are taken. But you can, almost the one that's 2 weeks from now is almost always available. Like, you can usually find one. Well, I was going through and I was going round and around with ChatGPT saying, I want to know, can you calculate the whoever has given up the most points this year? There's only been 2 weeks, so basically all it needed to do was come into Colts, say they gave up, or they played Denver, right? So now you go to Denver, and that didn't help. So now you want to come over here and you want to click on this and you want to go to Denver, and they don't show up, I don't think, because someone has them. So I have to filter on all. And here's the Broncos, right? So they played Denver, and then they gave up I don't know. But basically you need to search through this. But see, it looks like Tennessee, like, right? Tennessee has gave 16 points up to them. So basically work backwards and figure out who's given up the most points. And I was explaining to ChatGPT exactly how to do it. It could not figure it out. It just kept saying, I've searched all through the internet and I can't find this data anywhere. And I was like, well, just go to it, find out that Tennessee gave up 16 points to Denver, and then go find out who Tennessee played the week before and find out who they gave up points to, and then tell me who has given up the most points. They could not do it. And it was even like, okay, once it kind of figured out what I wanted, it was like, okay, processing, this is going to take a while. And after like 5 minutes, I just said cancel because it was just taking too much time. So these large language systems, large language, whatever it is, LLMs, models, like, they only know how to look at data and determine based on the most accepted answer what the right answer is. They do not know how to they are not very good at calculating answers. So if you say, what's 5 plus 5, it'll just go out and find everyone who says 5 plus 5 everywhere it can find it and find out that the most common answer is 10, and then it'll tell you 10 because it found the most common, most accepted answer, not because it knows how to calculate these things, which is kind of hilarious if you think about it, because a lot of companies are like firing all their employees and are trying to replace them with LLMs when all the LLMs doing it are just copying their best employees. So, and they're usually firing their best employees because generally they were paying the most to their best employees. So they're firing their highest paid people, which are probably the ones that the LLMs are getting information from, and then wondering why their LLMs are failing. And it's like, well, because you fired your best. You had something that was producing golden eggs, and then you killed it. And then the thing that was going and getting those, collecting those golden eggs for you, no longer has a place to get the golden eggs from. And it's just going to take a while. It's just going to take a while for people to get used to these technologies. But anyways, happy coding, everybody. Bye.